Hello, Feminine Roadmappers. Welcome back to Feminine Roadmap Podcast, the podcast that helps you live a more vibrant second half, and we help you navigate the challenges and the changes of midlife. If you find us today on YouTube, please remember to click subscribe, ring that bell. And if you are on a podcast platform, please subscribe, rate, and share this episode, because today we are going to be talking about how it's never too late to follow your dreams. And while life is going to happen in the midst of all of that, it's so important to stay flexible. And to have this conversation with me today is Shannon Grissom, author and artist. Shannon, thank you so much for being with me today.
Hey, thanks for having me on your show. I'm so excited.
I am super excited to hear your story. Why don't you tell me about your midlife journey and all of the changes and necessary flexibility that were attached with that?
Wow, it was interesting because right at 50, I'm an artist and had been doing that for a living since I was 32. But right at 50, my husband was in a major accident, and so at that, so here I am. I'm actually on the set filming a pilot for a television show. And of course, we've got everything on D&D because you can't have any interruptions. Finally get the call, comes through, and poof, your life changes in an instant. And he required round-the-clock care for about 6 months. So everything just shifted. And at that point in time, so the production company said, well, you can come back in a month and film, right? So I go back a month later. I look like hell. I'm exhausted, right? I'm saying all the right words, but my tone of voice, it was bad. So anyway, that didn't work out. And so at that, it was, of course, it was not a great situation, but the blessing in that whole thing is when you have something major like that happen and disrupt everything, it's like this big course correction from the universe. You have the opportunity. I had to clear my plate, right? Took everything off my plate other than caregiving, and then decide, what am I going to put back? Mm-hmm. What am I going to do? Where am I going to go? And at that point, I've always been very focused on my career, and that was everything. And I realized the only thing that really mattered really were the people I love and the people that love me. So, okay, what during that time, it was difficult to, I needed to create because that's how I process life. I needed to let my creativity out, but that was hard to paint. And I started writing songs. My lyrics would come, and then music. And so I really channeled my creative work into the music. And also, it was a great way. There's some that I never put out there. It was it was sniveling, and it wasn't good sniveling, right? I mean, if it was a good old, blues song, that's great, but they weren't. So it was just good to, be able to shift the focus, and eventually, my art started coming back. And I was able to kind of incorporate, as he was healing and I was healing and working with the situation, things started to come back and shift. So I would have to say, I'm 63 now, and it's been a series of shifts, and it's still happening.
It's interesting how much shifting happens in this season of life. It gets an insane amount of changes. Yeah. And I know what it is to put everything on hold, to make taking care of or managing someone else's life for them, all the details and everything like that. While I wasn't necessarily a physical caregiver, I know what it is to lose that time in your mind, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
It's like, that COVID happened in and at the end of that. So I feel like there's this time that just was sort of erased. Like, what did you do? And you're like, And so I feel like art was for me also a diary. Let's call it a diary, right? It was a place to process those emotions. And I'm curious, had you written music before, or was that something new for you?
I hadn't written that. Maybe a handful of little things, but during that period of time, well, for probably the next 5 years, I wrote probably around 70 songs, and was just really prolific and channeled much of my creative energy there. So it was just a great way to get that out. It's interesting you talk about COVID. That so years had passed, and COVID hits, and I'm back to doing art again. I had 2 one-woman shows. The first one, just when they had the lockdown in California, I had everything hung, all the invitations, everything sent out, and the galleries closed. My work's just hanging there. Nobody could see it because nobody could, we're all in lockdown.
Right.
So then things ease up a little bit. I get another one-woman show. I get that started, and lockdown again. So I'm like, okay, I'm listening. Obviously, I'm supposed to be doing something different. And that's when I switched to writing. And I had always had this Oracle card deck in mind to get that done. And it was interesting because during the pandemic, when all this is, I'm like, what am I supposed to be doing? Because obviously what I'm doing isn't working. And I just got guidance to just work on that. And so that's when I, put the pedal to the metal and switched gears again to the Sock Monkey Oracle deck. And that actually was published this year. So it's interesting. I'm learning, once the initial snivel and pity pop thing is over, it's like, okay, what's next? What can I do with this? And
that's such a great point that you just said. When things don't go the way we want them to, when life takes those funky turns and we so want to go this direction and it's going another direction, and you're like watching the thing you're aiming for get further and further. It's like taking a ship from shore. You're like, there goes the land. Oh, well.
Oh, that's just a great description. It really is.
But, to just have that idea that, okay, that, what do I need to be paying attention to in this moment?
Yeah.
And I think it's probably true that doesn't mean it's never going to happen. I feel like sometimes we feel like it's an all or nothing proposition, but I feel like that flexibility that you were saying is necessary is understanding that maybe we're, taking that ship to a different port on that piece of land, in our journey, and really being flexible. So how has flexibility really been a part of helping you navigate all of this?
I do get stuck in, or I've had that. I can't say that I'm always flexible. Sometimes it takes me a while to get there because I'm still trying to do what I was trying to do, darn it,
Yes.
Yesterday. And so sometimes it's like, what was that movie, whatever that movie was, where they said, snap out of it, right? It's like, okay. So it doesn't always happen instantly, but I'm just grateful that it does. And so now I'm learning, I'm having yet another episode where my husband broke his back and he's like completely out of it. And so here I was again, full steam ahead at something. And so this isn't, so once you get over the WTFs, once I get over that, then it's like, okay, I'm learning, and maybe because the older you get, the more I'm looking into, okay, this is going on. How can I shift rather than, oh, this is bad. And so as far as being flexible, I'm not saying it happens instantly, but my recovery time as I age is quicker. So something happens and I'm, like in this case, it only took about a month, which, that's not bad. Really, when I think of the thing, instead of trying, well, first of all, I was so exhausted for a month that I couldn't do anything else. And now I'm like, okay, what can I keep? What, it's a matter of fine tuning. It's like those little mice in a maze. Okay, that door's locked. Can you climb over? What can you do? And if that's not going to work, quit beating a dead horse and try riding a leprechaun. Try something way different. So in my case right now, it's harder to do a sustained painting with where you got to clean brushes and stuff, because at any moment's notice, I got to go take care of whatever's going on in the other room. So I temper that with I'm using painting with a palette knife, because then the cleanup is just wipe the knife and you're done. Or I'm doing some sketching, or I think the flexibility has always been a little challenge when I really want to get something done. And the biggest point that the point that really strikes me is that you can still do some of these things, just maybe not when you want to. Like you said, you can do them later. And so I've just made this list, and so I put it all out there and say, okay, I may or may not get back to it, but this is over there. What can I focus on now? And I'm finding that clearing the headspace, like you talked about, really helps, because and it's funny because right now in the middle of all this, I just want to clear clutter around the house, but I realize, and I'm like, I just want to throw everything out. And I'm like, no, you don't want to throw everything out. You just want to throw out what's not happy right now.
Yeah. There's a real tenacity necessary for, all life requires it, but I keep saying that there's something different about midlife. There's just something different about it. And the reason I started the podcast is because no one was really talking about the reality of what midlife is. They wanted to talk about like midlife crises and menopause, which that's not a joke, but it's not the only thing that midlife is. It complicates it. Yeah. It makes it an interesting journey, but what if you don't want to look 20 forever and you're not having a midlife crisis? Well, then the conversation comes to an end. And I thought, women like ourselves, life is happening at a rate. We've lived so much life, we've experienced so much, and there's a tenacity and a perseverance, and a resilience that we've developed. And I think sometimes we have to pick all those tools back up. That's the best way I know how to describe it. Like they're there, they might be a little rusty, but I feel like midlife requires all of them.
Yes. And my sister-in-law, Bonnie, she calls it this, when you get to she used to call it fabulous 50s and then selective 60s, because you start making decisions on, the whole thing about saying yes to something means saying something no to something else. And so I'm better about saying no, that doesn't work for me. It was a lot more of a people pleaser in my younger days, but now it's
Isn't that funny? It's pretty universal, actually. There's like a switch.
Yes.
That happens.
Yeah.
And one day you're just like, no,
not gonna happen.
Like no, I did that already. Or why would I do that? So let's talk a little bit about how you started writing this music. Like, how does one just begin something new? I know as a creative, it's a little bit different conversation because I'm also a creative and we're a bit more like, I'm just going to try this. Oh, I'm going to do that. Pretty soon you've got 15 art hobbies or creative hobbies. And then you go to the library and find 5 more books. Not that there's a book sitting right in front of me that I'm like, we should try that. So I get the creative person's journey, which is sort of ADD, right?
Oh yeah.
We're a little bit more, we think differently about things to try, we get antsy. But I am curious, even though I think I understand some of your journey as a creative, what was the process that empowered you to do that? Because when we are clinging to something we want so bad, and having to make a shift. I feel like helping each other understand our own journeys could be, there's like a nugget in there for everybody else that might help them make the transition, be flexible, do what they need to do. So what was your journey like when that happened at 50?
I have to back up. So I've been a painter since my 30s, but growing up, I grew up in a very musical household. So I had the background. So that was, but I didn't do anything with it for years. Pretty much stopped after I got out of high school. So I didn't do anything with it. And then I was watching, so I'm watching Harry Potter with my sister-in-law. And my sister-in-law, Bonnie, bringing her up again, she makes the observation that cowboys and wizards never lose their hats. And I'm like, oh my God, that is a song. That is brilliant. That is absolutely brilliant. And so I just started writing things down. I mean, I just started writing things down, and then I did, but I didn't know how to structure it. I didn't know how to do anything with it. I mean, and so, and I have to back up. I had before that, I had been co-writing songs with, co-written a few songs with maybe 10 or more songs with a guy in Kentucky. He would send me his music, and then lyrics would just come to me, and we would combine them and, make songs there. We stopped writing, and then I thought, wow, I need to do the music side of it. So I started playing guitar. Don't know, I just got one, and so I got to back up because this is a good story. So when my mom passed, I was only 32 when my mom passed, and she had this big hunkin' diamond wedding ring. And I am not one for jewelry. I am not one for that. And it just sat in the safety deposit box. And, but Mom was this brilliant music major. So I'm thinking about it, and I'm thinking about it, and I wanted a nice guitar. And so I ended up, I thought, you know what, this ring is just going to, and it was gorgeous. It's just going to sit in the safety deposit box. That's not doing me any good. So I bought a beautiful guitar, and you know what, with that ring, and every time, this made me cry, every time I open the case and smell the wood on the guitar, my mother's there. Mm-hmm. My mom is just there. So anyway, what would happen is most of the time, 90% of the time, something like that, cowboy and wizards, whatever, somebody would say, or I would just hear something, oh, that'd be a great song. I would start messing around with the lyrics. And then when I'd sit down with the guitar, I could barely play. I'm hacking out. I mean, it's not pretty what I'm hacking out, but I can hear the music in my head, and I can do it enough that I can, cobble a song out of it. And so that's basically how I wrote and how I got it out. Am I a great musician? Nope. I did get 2 honorable mentions for American Songwriter Magazine for my lyrics, so I know that I have something there. But and actually, for one of my songs, both lyrics and music, I got an honorable mention from Nashville Songwriters. So it's something's I have something, but I never did. I again, that kind of tapered off, and I never did continue with that. So I don't know if I even answered that. But anyway, so I started kind of hacking through it. Then I joined local songwriting chapters and worked with them. I took classes online. I took this great class through the Berklee School of Music. And so whenever I get something, when I have a new software program I need to learn, I just get in there and play with it, and then I start taking classes, right? I don't, I just want to get in and play. That's kind of how it is with anything creative I'm doing. It's like, I get this idea, I'm all fired up, I get started, realize I need a lot of help, and then I start taking classes.
I think that's such a good reminder that as you were talking about, you did the songwriting, you even had some measure of success, right? Anybody would say that that's a measure of success, and it tapers off. and you try something else. So I think that's kind of an important nugget of what you're sharing, is that curiosity about things and following a trail for a little while.
Yeah.
And maybe not, we've spent our life climbing ladders or accomplishing certain things. Maybe like for me, I homeschooled my children, so I had goals to get them to certain marks in their life, right? And I feel like that shift to now, what do I want to do? And the goal orientation sort of shifts a little bit. Like we still have goals, but it feels like we're driving less. We're as motivated. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? It's like,
yes,
that kind of grind is different in this season of life, but I think it's the clarity that you talked about, where we have less that we're running after. So it's a little bit more personally purposeful, I suppose.
I think it's personally purposeful, and say that 3 times fast. I think the thing, and then that goes back to the flexibility. It's like, I realize that I love to paint. I love to write music. I love to write in, just words, paint with words. I can't do all of them all at once. The old me would have tried, and I did try it. But you know what? Now I realize that, some days you have spaghetti for dinner. The other, blaming on the other day. So, it's just, hey, this is what I feel like eating today, and not be so judgy on myself about what I'm supposed to be doing. And it's more of an intuitive, okay, where should, what feels good, and let that flow in that direction. I've always just been such a, I've been pushing myself for many years in certain directions. And now it's like, okay. And even with my painting, I'm doing a series right now where I just step up to the easel and say, okay, who wants to come out today? And I'm doing these series of like goddess portraits, rather than, the stuff behind me is more purposeful. It's going to be for a children's book. It's that kind of thing. But then I've got this wild stuff that just got to come out. So it's all good. And I realize I don't have to stay on one path.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
You're
I love that.
You talk about a roadmap, right? Let's say we're crisscrossing across the United States, and it's like, I want to take that country road today. I don't feel like staying on the highway, and it's okay. I don't have I think before I had the guilts and the shoulds about, I need to be doing this. And I thought, no, at my age, if it doesn't feel good, I am not doing it.
You mentioned judgment versus intuition, and I love that perspective, because we can check ourselves, right? If we're feeling that dissonance or that lack of connection to our life or ourselves, it's like, well, am I judging myself?
Yes.
Or am I trusting myself?
Yeah.
Right. I think we are moving into a season of trust.
Yes.
Because that's
been a challenge. that's been I mean, I meditate every day, and I tune in, and I can't tell you how many times I hear trust.
Trust.
And I'm going, but.
There is such a shift toward knowing more about our priorities, and not that we haven't lived by priorities, but I feel like, as an artist, because I'm also an artist, there's a letting go that needs to happen for art to be created. Like, we can be super tight when we're painting, or we can expect a specific outcome.
Right.
We can sit down and be like, I'm going to paint a horse, let's say, or a floral, whatever. And you get to painting, and the next thing you know, it could be abstract or whatever. And I feel like it's such a good analogy for what our life is like.
Yeah.
Right? It's that process of, you got to be in it to even begin to know where you're headed sometimes. And I feel like that's what midlife is It's that you just got to get in it, get out there and start swimming and see where you end up. Right.
Yeah.
It's so fascinating. And so how does that help you, your art, because specifically you are an artist? How does that help you navigate the challenges of your life? How is that a tool?
I think it's my primary tool, because otherwise I'm in doing mode. I'm taking care of people. I'm taking care of life. I'm doing all the business end. The business end of being an artist is a lot. And if I am not creating, I don't process life well. I am not nice to be around. And I make sure I pretty much every day create, because what happens is it's a form of active meditation. So you're creating, and it's funny, I had a teacher that said the time you shouldn't be thinking when you approach the canvas. He said you should just be creating. You think before when you're sitting there looking at it, maybe think after, maybe analyze it after, but as you're creating, you should just be in the flow. And in my 30s, I didn't know what the heck he meant. I did not get it, but I get it now. And so sometimes I do what I call throw up paintings. And that's because I'll have things that I'm working on, and whatever it is that's going on in my life might be so distressing that I know if I approach the canvas, I'm going to screw it up. I mean, it's going to be ugly. I don't want that energy in my work. I really want to share joy. So I'll do some where I just paint, throw it out. I'm getting it out. So it's interesting. I'm releasing what I don't need. And then the process helps me bring in the divine, what I do need, the love, the joy, so it's a very, very active process.
That's a great tip too, because what you're saying is that intentionality about not wanting to bring that energy to your work, but you still leave space to dump all that yuck out. Like it has to come out somewhere. Right. It's finding a healthy outlet for it, you know? Yeah.
I quit drinking, oh God, in my early 30s. I didn't drink every day, but when I did, woohoo, boy, did I. And so I could see that down the road I would have a problem, and I quit. So the creativity is my way of, I mean, it's a great addiction to have, because
it's a bit like therapy.
Yes, it's totally therapy. And you just, it's like screaming into a pillow or doing whatever you need to do. It's just on the canvas or in your music. Sometimes I'll just hit a certain note on the guitar and it just resonates through my whole soul and kind of clears you out. And there are times when I don't want to feel, but it helps me feel, and then I'm releasing. So I'll even cry in the middle of my work, in the middle of a painting session, because I didn't realize I had pushed so much down, right? And and I use music. I'll just I got a playlist on YouTube that I play certain songs if I know I haven't cried. Because when you have a lot of crisis things going on, I don't know about you, but I just tend to get things done before you know it. I'm like, oh, I'm bottled up. I am.
That survival mode takes over.
Yeah. So what I do is I'll put on YouTube, and I'll just tell my husband, I've got nothing's wrong. I'm going to just go cry. So I go, just, don't worry about it. You don't have to fix anything. Just let me do this. And he's like, okay, right on. So I go in there and cry, and then I feel better. And,
we've carried a lot on our shoulders. And I think as women, we continue to, and by no means am I minimizing what a man does. I'm just specifically focusing on what a woman does. And because we are such emotional beings, it is so good to hit this point in life and to allow ourselves some space.
Yes. Yeah.
Because
space is so important.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
How do you create space? Is it like you said, music? Before you answer that question, I want to say that I think that there are things we can do environmentally to support ourselves in that way,
I
like music.
I walk almost every day, and I was walking with my husband now, but now that's not an option. But and we're both introverts, so we could have a silent walk, and but be together, but anyway, I still walk every day, and that helps me create space. And I do physical things, like when things are overwhelming, okay, need to make a goodwill run, I think sometimes by clearing the physical space, that helps me clear the non-physical.
Mm-hmm. I think it's important to maybe hold a little space for healing.
Mm-hmm.
Some of us have put ourselves aside,
yeah,
for a very long time, and I understand there's sometimes a time and a place where you don't like what you're going through. There's a lot more doing than being, sort of, if you will. But I feel like once we hit this season of life, it benefits us and everyone else if we get reconnected with who we are and really kind of allow ourselves to deal with. I feel like a lot of marriages fail and difficulties come because we are in such a, like you said, it's so bottled up that it feels like you have to do something dramatic.
Right.
And I feel like art and music are great vehicles to unclutter all of that.
They are. They're just getting it out of your head, out of your body, out of your spirit. And it doesn't matter. It really is the journey and not the destination, because for somebody like me who always wants to paint a great picture or create a great piece of music or whatever, I have learned over time it does not matter. It only matters that I do create. And I think over the years, as I've aged, I am better at taking care of myself. This is my third go round at caregiving. And so at first all the same buttons are pushed, and then I'm like, okay, this time at 63, I have an opportunity to do things differently. So one day I went out and got a pedicure, and the other day I'm got a massage next week, and I take naps during the day, and I meditate every day. And half the time I'm so tired I fall asleep, but I do what I have to do, but I'm also taking care of myself, where before, nah. The first 2 times I wasn't so good at that, but now I'm learning. I mean, a simple thing like this morning, my husband wasn't up yet, and so I wasn't quite ready to eat breakfast, but I thought, you know what, if you don't do it now, then you're gonna have to wait, because once he gets up, it's about a 2-hour window, then I've got things that I need to take care of, and then I can. And I thought, no, you gotta if you're hungry, you gotta eat. And I thought, what a great metaphor for life. You've got to feed yourself.
Yeah, that is so important for us to even identify what it is that, quote, makes us hungry, if we want to follow that metaphor.
Yes.
It's a great time for experimentation. I think about, my husband actually creates like ASMR and types of videos for YouTube, and
oh wow,
and how those kinds of things, like having a beautiful scene with nice sounds, can help facilitate a shift in the way you feel or what you're thinking. For me, because I'm a believer, I'm a Christian, there are times when I just need to sit down and put worship music on. I'm not saying I feel like listening to it. It's more of a you need to do this.
Yes.
you are off kilter, woman, get your act together. You know what I mean? Like, we need to know what those things are for ourselves. Yes. Is it a walk? Is it a drive? Is it a painting? Is it writing? Is it, a lot of the times I think music is a facilitator, but that's what I'm hearing you say part of your process is recognizing, this moment in time, this prescription, if you will, for what ails me is this. And if I don't know what ails me, I will default to worship music. And it almost always, if not always, sets me and my heart right so that I can think clearly. And I feel like that's like a midlife and beyond kind of thing. It's getting clearer and clearer and clearer. Is that been your journey as well?
You know what? That's really a good point. Once you realize what it is that sets your heart rate too. Once it is, you realize that, then hunt it down, go after it, use it. And there may be more than one thing. Sometimes these things, like I have this meditation app. Some days a certain meditation, some days I can do it by myself. Other days, I'm too fried. So anyway, there are things that work one day that aren't going to work the other. So I've learned that I need to have a ton of tools in my arsenal, and to not just, okay, this isn't working, just kind of give up. It's like, you got to keep seeking for those things that put you back on track. And one of the things that I love, okay, so dogs just make me happy. I love dogs. And there's this happy dog video on YouTube. And if I need to switch my energy from grumpy to whatever, I put on this happy dog, two minutes, maybe even a minute of this happy dog thing. And I'm smiling. And so my goal is, I'm not saying not to cry, because I do need to release that. But I am saying that if my thoughts, if it's not just a need to cry, if I'm don't have my head on straight and I'm just grumpy and judgy or whatever, then I go find that happy dog video. So everybody needs a happy dog video or something. It doesn't have to be a video, but something like you said that will help you shift into a positive place.
What are some of the things that you really appreciate about this season of your life?
I love that I am comfortable with myself. I've got wrinkles, and that's okay. I'm not a size 3, and that's okay. It's taken me many years to be this secure with myself. So I think that's one of the biggest things, is that I'm comfortable. This is who I know who I am. I don't think I looked at who I was as much when I was younger. I just kind of was doing. But now I examine. And if I don't like who I am, I shift. So that's big.
And I feel like we have a lot of the resources at this point, which is one of the beauties, I think, of midlife. Everything we've done, everything we've seen, all the people we've met, like we're a resource in and of ourselves, I think. And acknowledging that, I think, makes midlife, that potential that you and I both see in midlife, as being the best part of your life.
Yes.
We come to it with so much more. It's not like we're 18 and we don't know anything and people are like, what are you going to do with the rest of your life? Well, I don't think there's an answer to that question.
No, and it doesn't have to be that long a time span, right? Right now, I feel like doing this. 2 weeks from now, I might feel like doing something different, and that's okay. And my dad is 88, going to be 89 in November, and he's dancing in the kitchen with his girlfriend. And it was like, I asked him about a doctor's appointment. He goes, nah, I got a golf game. I mean, it's not like he neglects his health, but he schedules things around his fun. And I thought, so he's still taking care of business, but he schedules it around fun. And I thought, he says, I don't know how much longer I'm going to have. So you know what? I mean, he's very conscious at his age about, limited time frame. And so he makes feeling good a priority. And I thought, that's a great lesson for me, or anybody at any age. I mean, you still take care of business, but think about that fun aspect.
Yeah. What brings you joy?
Yeah.
What lights you up? I think a lot of people, it's revisiting, but for other people, it's that, I wonder what that would be like.
Yeah.
that curiosity piece. I know I keep saying curiosity, but I feel like if we can keep a spirit of curiosity, we have more opportunity, to experience parts of ourselves. And I feel like there's another way. Midlife is, like you picked up a guitar, you're not very good at it, but that's not the point. And I think that's the difference between midlife and maybe the first half of our life.
Oh yeah.
It's the driving and the being good at, right?
Right.
Success, however, we all kind of made it the same definition, right? You achieve a certain thing. And I love this shift that you're talking about of who cares? Like, is it bringing you joy?
Yeah.
Why do you have to be the best at it? Like, when do we get to shed all of that nonsense that we've carried around?
Yeah.
That's what I hear you saying.
Yep.
That's okay. Does it really matter? Does it though?
In the scheme of things. And this is, this is the third time I've had the opportunity to clear my plate and start over. So, although I'm not starting over at this point, this is the third time I've had a conscious point of, okay, where do you go from here? What are you choosing to do? And before all this happened, I had a third quarter plan, what I was going to get done. And now, instead of this long list every day, I have one thing on there. And it's probably not a big thing. It's probably just a little thing like, okay, can I do a social media post, or can I do whatever, one work to keep my business going and to keep all that going. But I'm not driving myself so hard. And so, it's not. And that goes along with trust. I trust that I'm taken care of, that I ask for help now. That's another big thing in midlife. Before midlife, I'm the type of person that could be carrying 3 bags of groceries, dropping stuff as I go. And somebody would say, do you need help? And I'd like, no, I got it. So now I ask for help. In this day and age, caregiving has got a little bit easier in that I can have groceries delivered. I can, get the barber's coming over tomorrow. I mean, we've got stuff like that you can do to ease things up. Or before I thought I had to do everything myself. No, not anymore. Don't want to do everything myself. And I'm not as good at these things as these other people, right? So I'm determining what are my strengths, work towards those, and where I'm not really proficient, well, who can I get to help me with that?
That's an application of wisdom that you've gained, really, right?
Yeah.
We're acknowledging it's not that I'm failing. It's that, hey, if somebody can do it better, why wouldn't I allow them the opportunity to use their gifts?
Right.
So if you were to kind of sit down with my audience, which you are virtually doing, but if you were to give them 3 kind of key pieces of advice or mindset or shifts, what 3 things would you really want them to take away or know about your journey that might help them?
Number 1, check in with yourself to see how you're really feeling instead of just taking care of whatever you're working on at the time. Really check in and see, how do I feel about this? Because I think the feeling guides your next actions. And you might have people that want to come over and do things, but that's going to be more trouble than if you just didn't have it. So the ability to say no to people and to honor yourself is important. Let's see. And really, the biggest thing that takeaway is that if you want to, whatever it is you've been always wanting to do it now. Just, there's no reason why not to. There are classes on the internet. There are local community centers that would have whatever it is. Just do it. There's no reason not to. Everybody starts off as a beginner. But if you want to do it, follow your passion. And I think it's Julia Cameron that when one of her quotes is that somebody was saying, well, I'd be this age before I ever learned to do this. And she said, yeah, but if you didn't do it, you'd be that age and have had unfulfilled dreams. Right. So so just go for it. And people will say, well, you can do whatever it is I've done because you don't have young children at home, or you don't have this, or you don't have this, or you don't have this. And that's the reason you're creating or doing what you're doing. And what I'd like to say is, no, the reason I'm doing it is because I made a decision and I did it. There's always enough time for what you want to do.
Make a decision and do it.
Yep. It's that simple.
You're the second guest in a row who's like, I just made a decision. And it's like, that's the message for the week. Yes. I just made a decision.
Yes.
It's so empowering to think that we can make a decision, that we don't have to always be beholden to other people's expectations. And that's another word that comes up a lot, is expectations. We have to tread lightly with our expectations.
Yeah.
For me anyway. But you said, check in with yourself. How do you feel? Say no and honor yourself.
Yeah.
And always, if something you've always wanted to do, try some version of it.
Yeah.
Like somebody said, well, if you, like, I think it was Gene Peelin you were talking about, you're not going to be that prima ballerina, but you could take a dance class.
Right.
You can be adjacent to it, maybe, if you waited too long to take action on it. So, Shannon, how can people find you and your art?
Oh, just go to shannongrissom.com.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, Shannon, I want to thank you so much for being with me today, for having this cup of something wonderful and having a conversation about your journey and the things that you've experienced and the wisdom that you've gained, and just being willing to bring that truth and being honest with my audience, because somebody somewhere is going to need to hear what you say. It's going to speak to their heart in a way. So I really want to appreciate the effort to bring all of this forward so that someone else's life can be touched. It's such a gift that you've given to my audience today, and your time for me was a great gift. So thank you so much.
Hey, thank you. It's just been an honor to be on your show. I would encourage listeners to look at all of her shows. It's totally inspiring body of work you've got, Gina.
Oh, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Appreciate that. Friends, today, if you find Shannon and I on YouTube, please just go ahead and look down below. That's where the link to Shannon will be. Super straightforward. If you happen to be on the podcast platforms, head on over to www.feminineroadmap.com/episode 305. In the show notes, you will find the link to Shannon. While you're there, go ahead and join my tribe. I send out very random periodic emails just when thoughts cross my mind that I want to share. I promise I don't spam. So thank you so much, friends, for being here today and for taking the time to invest in yourself. You're taking the first step into allowing yourself some space by listening to a conversation like this with Shannon and I, what it is to be a woman at this season of life, what it is to experience the interruptions, the frustrations, the successes, the shards of light that come into our lives, and how do we each navigate it. I really do believe that as we come together as women and we have these conversations and we share these things with each other, we really begin to recognize that we're all in this thing together. And there's something we can learn from every other person, what they're going through. And that midlife is exactly as we say it is. It is this powerful, incredible opportunity to bloom, blossom, become more of the person that you are, because I believe everyone is created for a purpose and has a specific set of gifts and abilities. No one lacks something to offer in this world, and that tenacity and that grace that Shannon talked about, that ability to flex, that being curious, we really want to encourage you to make some space in your life to think about what are those things that could bring you joy. Be curious, be Be free to try without the judgment and let us know how you're enjoying your journey. We'd love to hear from you. And I want to thank you so much for joining me week after week. If it's your first time, welcome. If you've been here before, thank you. I appreciate you being here with me because the women that I bring onto this show have powerful messages to share. And I will be bringing more of these types of women and messages to you in the weeks to come. So join me next week. Take care, my friends. Bye-bye.